Hello judges, we hope we've all stayed healthy during this time. I'm Cole, I'm here with Scott, Carson, and Danny. Together we're Just Development, and our proposal today is the Edison Tower. Now, in order to understand the true value delivered by the Edison Tower, it's important to view it within the context of the target site. As you can see on the map provided, there are thousands of pre-existing or planned multifamily unit developments directly adjacent to the site. Due to this large supply of multifamily products surrounding the site, we can't afford to put up just another apartment building for people to compare to surrounding offerings. Instead, we need a development with a brand that makes Edison Tower appeal to a specific audience in a way that no other project can. To accomplish this, we will position Edison Tower toward a particular tenant. However, to determine who this tenant is, we need to be honest about the area. The environment surrounding the site is composed of lots of creative and social places, so we want to continue the social and younger attitude of the area into our tenant profile and site design in order to create a brand that elevates the area, not flattening the cultural uniqueness. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Millennials and Gen Z account for just over 50% of the labor force in the U.S. as of this year. By 2025, this percentage is forecasted to increase to 75% of the labor force. Perhaps even more interesting is that Utah has the highest portion of millennials in its overall population and the highest millennial labor force participation rate of any state in the U.S. Given the significant prevalence of this demographic in Salt Lake, the Edison Tower will create a brand that appeals to this demographic not by just providing another living space, but rather by catering to their values. More specifically, this tenant is a young professional working in SLC who is cognizant not only about their careers, but is also serious regarding their views toward the environment. While other offerings claim to be environmentally efficient in niche ways, the Edison Tower will be the first example of a truly progressive living space in Salt Lake City. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, just over 75% of millennials are actively looking for environmentally friendly changes they can make in their homes or living situation. By targeting this tenant segment, the Edison Tower will be the best positioned offering for this demographic of SLC residents. However, our vision for an environmentally conscious development is not one with extreme new green designs or gimmicky features, but rather we have picked very specific construction methods and nuanced design cues that are first and foremost about functionality and financial feasibility, which Scott will touch on in a bit. This allows us to ground our development in reality and create a unique space that uses environmental efficiency as a means of generating value rather than just as a set of regulatory guidelines. According to the World Green Building Council, this value generated by our eco-friendly building methods are evidenced by rental premiums up to 17%, an average increased sales price of 3%, and an increase in occupancy up to 23%. This increase in tenant willingness to pay more in rent can be ascribed to higher indoor quality and lower operating expenses, which make the building a more attractive place for living and working and promises a discount on the higher rental rate due to reduced utility costs. By utilizing these environmental efficiencies to create a brand around Edison Tower, our development will be a proof of concept that environmental efficiency doesn't have to be merely a set of guidelines, but rather a design and construction element that can both expedite build times and improve financial earnings. It is this proposition that Scott will now cover in our site plan.
Thanks, Cole. Now I'm going to dive into the site plan and see how we will activate the 2B site. There are 4 main components to the site, and the first one is the 11-story residential building. This is a mass timber hybrid building where the 2 base floors are a concrete podium structure. This podium will contain street access urban townhomes along the edge and house a city lift automated parking structure at the core. Above the concrete podium are 9 stories of residential units. We have fit 160 total residential units into the tower, with 14 of those being the townhomes. The top floor of the residential tower highlights one of the biggest trends we incorporated into this development. Renters in Salt Lake City no longer desire large floor plans. Now it is all about smaller units with nicer finishes, a classic example of quality over quantity. We have provided a state-of-the-art amenities package that reflects this. Moving on to the next part of the project, we have 2 office and retail mixed-use buildings. These buildings are both 4 stories and are bisected by a new street, which I'll dive into in a second. We decided to keep these buildings short as to not overwhelm Edison Street and let sufficient light into the space. The south building houses a food hall style restaurant on the bottom floor, 2 stories of office above that, and a gym and amenity space on the top floor that serves both residential and office tenants. A food hall restaurant is the ideal retail tenant for the space as it provides a phenomenal placemaker that will attract foot traffic to the area. In the north building, the ground floor is home to a new 11,000 square foot state liquor store, which was required when using this parcel. Above that is 3 stories of office space. The fourth differentiating aspect of the site is Book Avenue. It is a new road that passes from 200 East to Edison Street. It does a few things to improve the site, namely creating a setback from the neighboring Modilux development. Modilux will be 10 stories and is built just 8 feet off the north lot line. This makes it ineffective to put any north-facing residential on any development on the site. We have solved this with the creation of Book Avenue, which increases that setback from 8 to 34 feet, allowing us to utilize this side of the tower. Book Avenue also improves ingress and egress for both pedestrians and freight throughout the site. Now I want to talk about some of the issues surrounding the site. The first one is obviously the Modilux development, which I touched on earlier. In addition to the setback issue, Modilux also poses a significant threat to any luxury units proposed in the space. It contains 220 very high-end units, so there is no reason to compete with them in this regard. There is also a minimum height requirement for the parcel. Any development needs to be over 100 feet, so a typical stick-over podium is not legally permissible in this location. The main issue is the ownership conflict created by the land. The corner parcel can be purchased, but the Edison Street parcel is owned by the state of Utah. They have stated that they are not willing to sell this parcel, but are willing to offer a 100-year ground lease. We spoke with multiple lenders on this issue, and the consensus was that a project with a building overlapping the owned parcel and the leased parcel would not be able to acquire funding. Edison Tower solved this by segregating buildings to separate parcels, so each part of the development can be financed individually. Cole talked before about how important it is to appeal to an environmentally conscious tenant with sustainable development. I want to go through just how we did this. The development will be LEED and WELL Platinum eligible, but we will not pursue these accolades due to their high expense. We achieve these by combining energy-efficient appliances, innovative material sourcing, renewable energy usage via solar, biophilic indoor spaces, and a myriad of other factors. All of this does create monetary value, which Cole talked about. Edison Tower truly is the highest and best use for the 2B site, as it ticks all the boxes of a successful development. We have managed to create a fresh, appealing space that also proposes attractive financial returns. Now Carson's going to dive into some of the design aspects we've incorporated into the project.
Thanks, Scott. Let's also take a moment to talk about why we chose mass timber as our main building material for this project. It is a cost-competitive equivalent to post-tension concrete and steel, which are necessary for a building of this height. Mass timber creates a biophilic space that is appealing for residential and office tenants alike, and is much more sustainable. This will further help us appeal to our target demographic and differentiate from surrounding projects. It also has a much faster construction timeline than steel due to its prefabrication capabilities, saving about 20% overall. Now I want to extrapolate on some of the design and construction aspects that are incorporated into Edison Tower. Mass timber allows us to do unique things with the interior and exterior design. There is exposed wood on the exterior of the building paired with floor-to-ceiling windows. This allows the building to stand out from the competition without looking like a steel monstrosity. Many open spaces have been incorporated into the exterior of the building, creating an urban oasis on the top of our buildings. Despite the urban location of the development, Edison Tower incorporates foliage and green space in unique ways throughout the common areas. On the interior of the multifamily, retail, and office spaces, there is exposed wood throughout. Creating a biophilic space was one of the main goals with this project, as it allows people to feel comfortable in their dwellings and workplaces. The large windows provide a ton of natural light into the space as well. Knowing that we have more efficient unit sizes than the rest of the market, we knew that we needed innovative gathering spaces throughout the project. Our rooftop clubhouse and bar spaces provide phenomenal views of the Salt Lake Valley and plenty of space for professionals to work from home. On top of the office and retail spaces, we have incorporated a hot tub plaza space where office and residential tenants can relax. A small urban garden will also appeal to tenants who want to garden but have previously been unable to in an urban setting. As far as construction, we are electing to phase out our timeline. The residential tower will be phase 1 and office and retail will be phase 2. This way we can be finding office tenants during the construction of the residential portion. The multifamily tower will take approximately 18 months to construct due to the timeline savings of mass timber. The office and retail buildings will complete in about 9 to 10 months. Danny will now go over our financials.
Now I'm going to highlight some of the financial returns and metrics of the development. Our underwriting began with deriving projected market rents based off of comparison against existing stabilized projects in the market. Edison Tower has a diversified revenue stream that is based on revenues from a multifamily and an office and retail portion of the project. On the multifamily portion, the project generates revenues of approximately $1,800 per unit per month. Retail leases are underwritten in line with comparable spaces found on Regent and Edison Street as well as the CBD as a whole. The development costs are projected at approximately $60 million, with the multifamily improvements requiring about $38 million and the office and retail portion requiring about $21 million. Parking that is required for the multifamily portion will be provided by an automated parking system costing approximately $2.6 million, while the office and retail portion will be parked by underground parking costing approximately $4.3 million. Multifamily operations will generate an average rental rate of $2.25 per square foot with an operating expense ratio of 32%. Analysis of operating expenses at comparable properties built with underground automated parking systems have led us to underwrite additional maintenance and payroll margins to account for operations of the automated parking system. Office improvements will generate an average of $20 per square foot triple net on an annual basis while the retail portion is expected to be leased to a state liquor store as well as a restaurant for an average of $28 per square foot. When acquiring financing for the development, both permanent and construction loan details were agreed upon with the same lender prior to obtaining construction financing in the form of a mini-perm loan. As a result, we were able to mitigate additional loan fees from permanent financing and reduce interest rate risk. The project overall was underwritten with a 10-year hold. With that assumption, the project is expected to generate a 10-year levered IRR of 18.07%, a net present value of about $10 million, and a 5-year cash-on-cash of 9.4%.
To wrap things up, Edison Tower is the ideal development for the 2B site. It combines an innovative, appealing design with attractive returns. It really is the highest and best use for the site and creates a distinct identity for a historic corner. Thank you all so much for listening. We truly appreciate the time. Stay safe, and we hope to see you guys soon at the banquet.